started. If we can bring all our attention in this way. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Just so you know who's speaking to you, my name is Joshua Roy, and I've been doing seminars and workshops since 2015. And for the last 2.5 years, I've taken everything that I learned previous to that, and I've started sharing a lot of the information for free. And the reason I'm doing that is, one, it helps me to understand it better, because if you can teach it, you know more than if you can just listen to it or absorb it. So if you can teach it, that means you've got to know it to a deeper level. So it's really pushed me to get to know this stuff intimately, so that I have the ability and capacity to teach it. Before that, prior to 2015, when I started this project, and it's called Access World Seminars, a little project I put together. Prior to that, I was interested in the work of people like Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza, and there's also Tim Ferriss, and a lot of these there's a lot of motivators around the planet, and a lot of people who seem to have their life together. They make a lot of money, they go on the stage, they teach people their philosophy or their way of doing things, and different elements of their life work. And they work not just to an ordinary level, but to a phenomenal level. And so my quest has been to discover what they do, so that I can then implement it into my life. And now that I've been doing that, my objective now is to share it, so that each of you can implement these things into your life. So it's all about self-improvement, self-development, making yourself a better person. Tonight we're talking about pain. Who here has experienced physical pain? Everyone? What about to a really high level? Who's had so much physical pain that they felt like they couldn't deal with it? Who's ever had an experience like that, where you've just dealt with an extreme amount of physical pain? Right. What about emotional pain? Who here's had emotional pain like that? Hurt, upset, maybe it was a divorce, maybe it was the death of a loved one. So we've all been through pain. Pain is a condition that you're all aware of. And that's why tonight's seminar it's dealing with pain. It's also dealing with healing. Because getting rid of pain is one thing, but the actual healing is another thing. It's quite different. And so I can show you some techniques to get rid of pain. And it's magic. When you see it work, you almost don't believe it. When I first saw it, it was back in 2016 when I first saw somebody use the technique that I'll show you tonight. And when it happened, their pain level went from a level 8 out of 10 to 0. Suddenly the pain was gone. And I was just like, wow, how did that happen? And so I started researching, studying, and finding out what was the cause. A pack of hyenas come after the deer and they chase the deer. All right, what happens is there's a fight-flight response. So suddenly the deer takes off like a rocket, and these hyenas are chasing it. Now, one of two outcomes happens. Either they catch it, and that's lunch and dinner, or they don't, and the deer gets away. But within 15 minutes of escaping, guess what that deer does? It goes back to grazing as if nothing happened. Like nothing was wrong. It's back to normal. Just like that. Correct? Okay, now what about us? What about us as humans? We go through trauma. We go through a difficult event. Sometimes we can create an emotion around that. A very strong emotion. It could be loss, upset, hurt, pain, rejection. Whatever emotion it is can sit inside us. And how long can that stay for? So, let's say that you run that same emotion every day for a week, and then you run it for another week. Eventually that emotion can turn into a mood. So you talk to someone and say, what's wrong? I'm just in a mood. I've got this mood. And what's happened is you keep running the same pattern over and over again. So that trauma happened, but instead of being like that deer and going back to grazing and just letting it go, we keep going over it in our mind again and again and again. We keep recycling it. We keep telling the same story. Whether consciously or unconsciously, this is what happens inside each of us. And so we can go on and run that for 3 months, or 6 months, or 9 months. If we run it for 9 months, it becomes a temperament. And then if you start running it for years, it can turn into a disposition or a personality trait. Okay, and so suddenly that's part of who you are. I'm a depressed person. Why are you depressed? Let me tell you. And that's a story everyone wants to hear, isn't it? tell me why you're depressed. And I go back, well, 15 years ago, here's what happened. Isn't it true? And yet other people tend to have a situation happen and they get over it relatively quickly. I'm going to talk about that tonight and how we can do that. All right, sound good? Yes. All right, the advice for toothaches, if you read the blurb, is go to the dentist. Because you can get rid of the pain, but unless you deal with the actual tooth and it's down to the roots or there's something physically wrong or something structurally wrong with your body, like you can get rid of pain in any part of your body, but if there's something structurally wrong, isn't it a good idea to have some pain so you don't injure it further? We're going to talk about the purposes of pain. Because pain does serve a purpose. But by all means, if you go to the dentist and you do what you should be doing, and then you've still got the pain, you just need a bit of help to tweak it, use these techniques, okay? They're going to help you. Okay, we still want to understand what the purpose of pain, and then we want to use it appropriately to help us. We don't want to sit in pain. It's the same with the emotional thing. You don't want to just shut it off and become unfeeling, uncaring. In fact, this is the way some people cope with the emotional pain. Because it's so traumatic, what they do is they shut the pain off. And they decide, we're not going to feel anything again. For anyone. So let's say the person was in love, and suddenly, bam, they say, I'll never do that again. I will never give somebody my heart like that again, and let them just jump all over it, squash the hell out of it. Right? Now, is that the way to live? Are we going to live a fulfilling life if that's our attitude? No. So we actually want to get over that. We want to learn the healing process. Where is pain? When you stub your toe, where is the pain? Is it in your toe? Who thinks the pain's in your toe? It does feel like the pain's in the toe. The pain's actually in the mind, 100% of the time. Your mind creates the pain. So your mind does 100% of the time. There's never an exception to this rule. Your mind creates all the pain in your body. Your mind does that so that you understand the purpose of pain. Okay, we'll talk more about that. Understood? So your mind creates it. So you're right, there is a neurology. That's part of it. Now, I'll give you an example of one man that I worked with. He had numbness in his legs and he also had gout. Now, the numbness was there to help him because that took away the pain, right? But he had gout, and so when he started moving or walking, this pain would shoot up his legs. He was a big Samoan man. And I went over and I did the technique with him, the one that I'll show you tonight. And I said, point to the pain, which he did. I said, now gather the pain up like a ball, and you'll learn how to do this. This is using your imagination. He did so. I said, now notice it spinning in a direction. Spit it the other direction. He did so. And then now put it back in your feet, and he did it. Once he'd done that, all the pain was gone. All the movement came back in his toes. He was starting to wiggle his toes, and he was going, that's amazing. He said, but there's still some numbness there. I said, well, do you want to get rid of the numbness? I'd never worked with numbness up until that point. But I used the same technique or something similar, and we got rid of the numbness. The next thing I knew, he got his daughter out there, who was about 4 years old, and he gave her a piggyback ride. It's the first time in his life that he'd ever given her a piggyback ride. Now, I found out the next day that he was back in hospital. Because he felt so good that he went for a 2-kilometre walk. Anyway, the doctor said to him and explained to him, listen, your mind's powerful. It can certainly help you overcome pain, but be careful. Don't overdo it. When the pain's gone, make sure you don't overdo it. Okay, so now I give people a disclaimer. I can say, look, I can remove the pain in your body, but be wise, be careful. If it's a structural problem, if there's actual problems in the body, we can get the mind to shut the pain off. That's simple. But we've got to actually deal with the cause of the pain. Okay, not just the pain itself. So if you've broken your leg and we get rid of the pain, don't go for a run. You know, I mean, it sounds obvious, doesn't it? But we need to remember that. So when we get rid of the pain, make sure you use that limb or that part of your body appropriately with somebody. I often spend 5 or 10 minutes explaining. Because what I want to do is get their mind in a place where they believe it's possible. And then I work with the mind some more to get the mind into the place where I believe it's probable. Okay, and then when we get to the place where I've got to, because I've probably used this technique more than 150, maybe 200 times now, and it works. 100% of the time. When you follow the directions, the instructions, it works. Well, this psychologist is very highly intelligent. And guess what happens the more intelligent someone gets? the more what's possible, the belief system can tend to actually reduce. It can. The more they understand science and understand... Who knows what I'm talking about? Sometimes these things don't mesh together, and so the more highly intelligent somebody is, unless we're also building up our belief at the same time, there can tend to be this divide. Because at some point we stop believing in the tooth fairy. At some point we stop believing in Santa Claus, we stop believing in those things, and then we just keep going on from there. And the belief system gets thrown back behind. No, it's not possible.
But there is a scientific explanation
There are.
for controlling it.
Yes, control the pain. That's right. How long has that been around though?
Not that long.
It's only been around very
We're
recently.
talking about the neuroplasticity
Yes.
of the brain and,
Yes.
and the different chemicals that
Correct.
are created by the
Yep.
amygdala. Yeah.
So what's happened is science has now caught up and helped people to get that belief. Okay, and it's also helping having these sort of workshops and seminars and getting the information out there. And actually going out, my hope tonight is for you to actually go out and use this one on yourself and also use it on other people. The more you practice the skill, the better you get at it. The more you practice it. And then everybody has a convincer strategy. Do you know what I mean by that? Convincer strategy is there's a number of times of doing something where you actually believe that it's going to work. So it could be 3 times, and when you get 3 positives, then you're convinced the process works. For another person, it might be 20. For another person, it might be 1. Do it once, you're sold. I'm done, I'm in. Jump in. So everyone has a convincer strategy. You've got to decide what's yours. Is it tonight when you see somebody up the front and suddenly the headache's gone? Or does it need to be more? And you've got to work it out. So practice these things. All right, let's get going. I want to tell you first of all about Dr. Joe Dispenza. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, you've heard of him?
I watch his videos.
Very good on YouTube. So if you have a chance, go watch some Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I'll tell you where he came from. When he was 24 years old, Dr. Joe Dispenza wasn't a doctor back then. He was in a triathlon. And he was on the bicycle part of the journey when a police officer was standing in the middle of a road waving him around a corner. He took the corner and didn't realise that a forward drive had taken a wrong turn and came crashing in behind him. He had the presence of mind to let go of his bike and grab onto the bull bar of the forward drive, which was travelling at approximately 80 kilometres an hour. After the forward drive pulled to a stop, he landed on his backside, compacting his spine. So right in the middle of his spine was compacted. Landed on his backside, he was in immense pain. Actually woke up without pain. He woke up, his whole body was numb. He woke up in a hospital bed looking up at a doctor, and they explained to him what had happened, and they explained that he needed surgery. They said that he would need to get a couple of rods placed in his back, one on each side of the spine, about yay big, approximately 30 centimetres large. And they said he would need to do that if he wanted to be able to walk again. He said, I want a second opinion. Another doctor spoke to him, checked out the scans, and decided that he could probably be okay if he had smaller rods, but they still recommended the rods. They said he would need that. Now he said that having looked at the diagrams, I believe he was a medical student at the time, but he knew a lot about it, he would have recommended to anybody else that they do the surgery. It was probably the best chance of walking again, the best chance of having the quality of life that he wanted to have. But he knew that he wasn't anybody. And so he decided that he would heal his spine using his mind. And so over the next 6 to 10 weeks, he spent 2 to 4.5 hours every morning. He had not much else to do, he's lying in a bed, reconstructing his spine using his mind. And so he began vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae, until he had reconstructed his entire spine each day. Now he said that if he lost concentration, if his mind wandered, he would exit and start the process again until he could get through the entire process without distraction or diversion. And he would continue doing it until he got his complete spine reconstructed. Now remember, he did this over and over again, every day, for several weeks, and after about 10 weeks, he stood up from his hospital bed and he walked back into his life. Pretty good, right? Okay, so against medical science, against what he was being told, he chose a different way. He chose the path of using his mind to heal the body. Okay, he believed it was possible, and that was his result. Now he travels around the world teaching people to do the same thing. I just finished reading his book about 6 months ago, You Are the Placebo. And in this book, what he speaks about, among many other things, are these spontaneous remissions that people get from sickness and disease. How? Using the mind. It's not using drugs, it's not using other things, it's not even a change of diet, although these things can help, but it's actually the mind. Okay, and he says that it's the mind that does the changing. All right, now how does it do that? There was a story told, actually, I'll tell one more story. There's a story told about a man who was violently sick. He couldn't keep any food down. Every time he'd eat, he would vomit, almost straight away. He was taken to the hospital by his wife, and as he was in hospital, the doctor was asking what was wrong with him. They did tests, they did studies, found nothing wrong with him. Eventually, his wife told the doctor that somebody had put a hex on them. This was a religious belief. Somebody had put a hex on this man, whereby he was cursed. Therefore, he was unable to get well. But physically, there was nothing wrong with him. So why was he sick? If our mind can heal our body, can our mind also make us sick? Absolutely. So anyway, after learning this, he went and approached the man and he asked him everything about this hex. He said, who was it? What did this man, where was this man? What did he do? He asked him all these questions and found out everything he could about the situation, about this hex that was placed on him. Anyway, after about 48 hours, the doctor had left and gone home. He came up with a little strategy of what could make the difference, what could help this man to get over this belief that he had, that he was sick. Because remember, nothing was physically wrong with him. This was all in his mind. He was making himself sick. So what he did was he got a small lizard. He also got a concoction ready. And when he went and sat with this man in the hospital bed, he said, listen, I found the man who put the hex on you. I found him, I pressed him up against a tree, I had my hand around his throat, and I made him tell me how to get rid of this. Here's what he said. He said that he placed a lizard inside you, and that lizard is eating you from the inside out. And so he said, okay, right. He said, and he told me how to fix it. He said, you need to drink this concoction. And there was milk and other things in there. It was a formula that was guaranteed to make him vomit. Okay, so after he drank this, a couple of mouthfuls, he started to feel ill and began to vomit. As he was vomiting into this little basin, the doctor reached in and grabbed the lizard and slipped it in. Nobody else could see it. His wife was over there. He was there vomiting. Suddenly, the doctor said, look, look! And he pointed to the lizard. He said, it's it. There it is. It must have come out while you're vomiting. Suddenly, after that, the man got well. Within 2 to 3 days, he was keeping all his food down and he exited the hospital. The problem was resolved. Another one. There was 10 men lined up for an operation. And these 10 men went in to get a knee operation surgery. All 10 men received an incision down the middle of their knee. All 10 men also got the incision stitched up. But only 5 of them actually had the work done. See, for 5 of them, the work was actually done under the kneecap to actually remove whatever was wrong with it, or actually do the physical work, like do the operation, whatever it was.
Meniscal tear.
The what?
A meniscal tear.
Meniscal tear, whatever it is. I don't know the technical word, but thank you. So anyway, that work was done underneath, only for 5 of them. But anyway, all 10 were sewed back up. Now, all 10 were told that the operation was done. But the interesting thing was all 10 of them got better. All 10 of them actually began to recover and mark off that they were actually getting well again. This is the power of the mind. All right, pretty good? All right. Let's have a look at pain now. We'll start with pain, then we'll move into healing. Okay, so let's look at pain. Now, we'd all agree that pain isn't pleasant. It was Major Payne who went up to a man who had been shot and he was screaming about his leg. Do you remember the movie? Anyone see Major Payne? And he's screaming, he's going, my leg! My leg! And Major Payne walks up and says, I can help you with that leg. And he got his hand and he began to, one by one, break the man's fingers. And so then the men started shouting, my hand! My hand! And as Sergeant Payne walked off, he said, works every time. Okay, so he just redirected the pain. But that's not what we're talking about here. So pain is not pleasant. Is pain necessary? Do we need it?
Yes.
Absolutely. We need it. Why do we need it?
It's a warning.
It's a warning. Good. Warning. It's a signal. What else? Why do we need pain?
To appreciate pleasure.
To appreciate pleasure. That's true. That's true. We've got the dual forces of pain and pleasure. Okay, excellent. Pain and pleasure. And you're right, when you're in pain, isn't it so good when that relief comes? Is it when you're hungry, oh, it's so good when you get to eat that food. Yeah, we have pain so that we can appreciate pleasure. It gives a newfound appreciation. Very good things. Anything else? Why else do we need pain?
It protects us.
Protects us. That's the first point. Number one. It protects us. You're walking along and there's an upturned plug. You step on that plug and what happens? Pain. So what happens is a signal goes from the plug, from the nerve endings at the bottom of your foot, all the way up to the brain, goes back down to the foot, so it can work out the appropriate amount of pain to have you feel, and it comes back up, and then your brain creates pain. It feels like it's in your foot, but it's actually in your brain. Your brain's creating this pain. Then, what's the natural reaction? To pull the foot away. So then there's a reflex action. Now this all happens in a microsecond, nanosecond. Okay, boom, 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 pull the foot away. It's a reaction. Okay, it protects us. Hands on the hot stove, suddenly you feel something, pull the hand away. Okay, it protects us. It keeps us safe. We want pain. If you weren't able to feel pain, I've got a friend at work actually, and he walks around with a limp. He was stabbed a number of times in a fight. He used to be a bouncer, and he was stabbed a number of times in his leg, and he's lost all pain in his leg. He stepped off a gutter one day and sprained his ankle. He then continued to walk home, couldn't feel a thing. By the time he got home, his leg was in such bad shape that it took him months to recover. Okay, even to where he's at now. But he has to be careful. He actually walks differently. He actually had to learn to walk by flicking his foot up. He'd flick his foot up like this now as he walks, because he's got no pain receptor. He doesn't know if he's injured his foot, so he's had to change, modify his whole way of walking. Pain protects us, keeps us safe. Number two.
Diabetics often burn themselves on the foot and the legs
Yep.
with the shower because they don't feel the pain.
Yes. Yes.
Severe burns.
Yeah. They don't even realise. Yeah. Excellent. So it protects us. So we need pain. Pain's good. So if you're in pain, you want pain. It's good. It helps you. Protects you. Number two. What else does pain do? Pain corrects. Pain corrects bad behaviour. So when you do something and you get hurt, you decide, oh, I probably won't do that again. I went abseiling down a cliff one time, and I decided to do it Geneva style. If you've ever heard of that, you actually go forward instead of backwards. And as I jumped down, I decided to, as I was a foolish 19-year-old, my mate was down the bottom, and I said, I'll jump down, I'm just going to let go of the rope, and you save my life. I'm going to put all my trust in your hands. And so, anyway, I've jumped, and a pretty silly thing, right? I've run down this cliff, it was KP Cliffs, Kangaroo Point, and I've jumped out, I pumped my chest as I normally would when I did it by myself, and he's down the bottom. He didn't realise how fast I'd be coming, because I was free falling. He's jumped back and he's pulled it with a jerk. Now the interesting thing was, the harness that I put in, I didn't double loop it properly. And so what happened was I actually fell out of the harness. I then started sliding down the rope. Anyway, I wound up on the ground. I had rope burn across my face, under my arm, as I landed on the ground. But we worked this out. We worked out that luckily the harness wasn't double looped. Otherwise I'd probably have a broken back today, because I was stopped suddenly. Okay, so there's a bit of pain there. I decided not to be so foolish in future. I decided to not put my trust in the arm of flesh as well. But our trust in man sometimes doesn't work. Okay, so pain corrects. Yes, I didn't do that ever again. And I never will. Okay, so pain corrects. changes our behaviour. We modify our behaviour after pain. If you're in a relationship with somebody and it doesn't end well, and you are hurt, and then you start dating somebody and similar traits come up, similar traits of this person which you have hurt in the past, these can set off warning bells, warning signals. And this can say, I don't think I want a relationship with this person. Okay, so pain corrects. Pain can actually get us to change our behaviour, to maybe think, well, am I choosing the same type of person again? Am I choosing the same type of person? Biggest thing I learned, I actually went through a divorce. And it was tough. Anyone who's been through a separation, a breakup, a divorce, you know how much pain that is. It hurts. Especially when you're giving your love to the other person. You gave them your heart. You said, I'm with you forever. And that was my commitment. That was my level of commitment. Never say die, never the end, it was going to be forever. That was my level. And when that didn't work out, I was crushed. It hurt. But I remember I visited a woman who told me this. I went into a home. I was actually working at the time. I went into a home on duty. And I walked into a room which was a library full of books. And this woman began to tell me many, many things. She was a very wise woman. She said to me this, she said, unless you change sufficiently, you will continue to attract the same type of person into your life. That was where I began to really change. That was actually back in, when was it, when I was 31, so about 10 years ago. That sort of spurred this big change in me, this desire to be somebody different. Because I knew if I changed sufficiently, I would attract a different type of woman into my life. And so I did. I made those changes. Okay, so pain corrects. Pain causes us to want to change, to want to be different. Okay, especially emotional pain. So you probably have a question. No? Okay, all good?
Yeah.
Pain corrects. Any comments about that? Pain corrects. The last one is pain unifies. Unifies what? Is it our conscious and our unconscious mind? Is that what's being unified here with pain? Is it emotion, physical, the whole system coming together? Or is it simply that when you hit your thumb with that hammer, you try to disperse the pain around by shaking it and try to move the pain through your body so that all the elements of the body can help with that pain, can help to sort of unite in defense or in dealing with this pain. The third one is pain unifies. Pain is about our mind, our body, our soul, our spirit, our emotions. It's about bringing us together. It's about feeling and being one. And so if you're experiencing pain in your life, maybe that's another of the purposes of pain, is that it's there to unify you. It's there to create a new you, or the best you there could be. Maybe it's something for you to do, that you can actually unify yourself. Any thoughts on that? Comments? Does everyone understand what I'm talking about here? Yeah, let's bring this together. All right, very good. So these are the purposes of pain. Now, once we understand the purposes of pain, it's there to protect me, it's there to correct my behaviour, and it's there to unify my system and bring me into alignment, bring me into coherency with myself. Once I've got the message, what's the use of pain? Should we keep it? Or can we just at that point let it go? For example, if I've broken my leg and I say, okay, pain's protecting me from walking, it's correcting my behaviour, so I'm not going to go do that thing again that I did. And it's there to unify my system, instead of maybe to find my spiritual self, or maybe to reflect on my life a bit more and work out if there's something emotional behind this. In fact, if you look at Louise Hay's work, anyone who knows Louise Hay, she actually talks about everything physical. If there's a physical problem in the body, there's usually some underlying emotion at its core. And so if we deal with the emotion, then physically we can get better also. Okay, that's what she teaches. And I think there's some merit to thinking that way. All right, so once we've got that, once we've understood all this, then we go, well, why do I need the pain? Do we need it anymore? I say, okay, I've got it, it's protecting me, it's correcting my behaviour, I'm in bed, I'm lying here, I'm not going to walk on my leg, it's broken. Why do I need the pain? Can I at this point get rid of it? I would say yes, you can. Once you've understood the purpose of pain, you can say goodbye to the pain. Sound good? Okay, let's talk about how to do that. There's 3 things that we need to do in order to get rid of pain in our body. And I'll share the first one by asking you all a question. When you were a young boy or a young girl, were you a tomboy or a tomgirl? When you were young and you played pretend, you would play pretend. We know what I'm talking about. Use your imagination, you'd play with invisible friends, you'd play pretend. What did you play pretend at? What was your favourite thing to do when you were young? What did you play pretend at? Start here.
Superhero.
What were you?
Superhero. Pretend to be a superhero.
A superhero? Which superhero?
Yeah.
Which one? Is there a favourite one? Superman. Oh, great. Superman. Have you seen it?
I was always a mum.
Mum. Pretend to be the mum. And then you grow up to be the mum. Are you still pretending?
Yeah, no.
I've given up.
Hey, who else?
In my era, there was no superheroes.
All right.
I just coming on the scene. I was a cowboy.
Right, cowboy. Cowboys and Indians were the big thing.
Yeah.
Tonto.
I love American Indian.
Anyone else? Stand in the back. What did you play pretend as?
Don't like my dad sometimes.
Pretend you're a dad.
I start imitating like my dad sometimes.
You never tell your dad. Okay.
I'm the boss.
Anyone else? When you picked up a stick, what did that stick become? Anyone?
Gun.
A gun?
Who did it become a gun for? Anyone? Who did it become a fairy was? Or a sword or something else? Sometimes a sword, you play swords. Okay, you think you're Rambo and you're taking down bad guys. You got your friend with you and you're both running around.
Or a
Okay.
guitar.
Now, how long did it take you before you really thought you were Rambo, you really thought the bad guys were coming, and you're out there just saving the universe?
Didn't take
How long did it take?
Not when you're a child, you're there.
Pretty quick, right? You get right in there really quickly. Okay, that's what it takes to do this. This technique that I'll show you, it's about using the imagination. Okay, so the first thing we do is play pretend. Number 1, play pretend. Number 2 is full absorption. Number 2 is full. Is that absorption? Full absorption. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you need to be fully engaged, fully involved in the process. You can't have part of you standing over here analysing it. We call that our hypnotist disease. Or the other one is smart person syndrome, where you will refuse to go into it because you're too smart for this. So those 2 things will keep you stuck. Those 2 things will prevent this technique from working for you. Okay, so the first one is play pretend, second one, full absorption. You ever been to the movies and you're walking down the aisle and you're with your favourite guy or girl and you've got the popcorn, big thing of popcorn in your hand, and you're looking at the both, you've got an arm around one, looking at the other, wondering which one's going to be more fun? And then finally you sit down in that movie and the lights go down. And the cinema opens right up to the edge, the Dolby surround sound comes on, and you begin to be locked in that movie. Now at what point are you paying full attention to that movie and nothing else? At what point does the world around you disappear? Because it does it sometimes, doesn't it? That's what full absorption is. Full absorption means there's nothing else. Everything else fades away. Everything else fades away and it becomes all about the process. That's full absorption. Okay, we all can do that. We all can do this. We've just got to do them all together. And the last one is, number 3, is to have fun. Now is this hard when you're in pain? Is it hard to have fun when you're in pain?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're in intense pain and you can't concentrate, how do you do these 2? If you're in intense pain, let's say your pain's level 10 out of 10, you're in such intense pain, you can't concentrate. What we can do is a thing called burst breathing. you see the Russians found out in their special services that when they got shot or when they were hurt in some way, tortured, they would go into such intense pain that they couldn't do the technique I'm about to show you. And so because they couldn't do it, they needed a way that they could get their state of mind back so that they could do these things. So that they could get control of their thoughts. And so they used a technique called burst breathing. Burst breathing. And so what they do is they use their breath. And they'd imagine that there was a straw leading into the injury. And they would start sucking the injury out of the straw and spitting it out. Just like this over and over and over again. They do it for as long as necessary so they could get their state of mind back. And they learned this in training. So that when they're out in the field, they had the presence of mind to be able to do this so that then they could take the techniques further and actually deal with the pain. Okay? Sound good? Let's talk about what Dr. Joe Dispenza discovered when he travelled around. You see, he interviewed more than 100 people who had chronic illnesses, chronic diseases, chronic problems. And these people had remissions from these. They had spontaneous healing. Spontaneous healing. So cancer, and they go back to the doctor 3 months later and the cancer's gone. They had a tumour. Went back to see the doctor and it's gone. They had a rare disease that there was no cure for, no known cure. And suddenly it's gone, it's disappeared from the system. And these cases are everywhere. You've just got to look for them. Well, that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza did. He went and looked for them, he searched them out, and he started interviewing them. And he found out that they had 4 things in common. There were some coincidences with all these people. What were they? Number 1. I'll put this coincidence. Coincidence number 1 was they all had a belief in an innate higher intelligence that had the power to heal the body. Now, whether that's God or the universe or just your higher self or the unconscious mind, but there is a power there that is able to heal the body. Okay, the same power that enables your heart to beat 100,000 times a day. That same power that causes the 70 to 100 trillion cells in your body to have 100,000 chemical reactions per second. That's a lot of reactions. Most of us struggle to balance our bank statements. And yet your body is running so many processes. And it's below the surface. We don't have to consciously think about it. It's happening inside us. So that was the first thing. The first thing was they had a belief in a higher power that was able to heal the body. The second belief was a belief that your thoughts directly affect the body. So thoughts directly affect the body. This was the second coincidence. Directly affect the body. Number 2. So we could make ourselves happy or sad or angry or depressed or joyful or excited just by thought. Just by thought alone. That thought, every thought that you have in your mind produces or releases chemicals in your brain. There's about 100,000, there's more than 100 chemicals in our brain. And we've got serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline. We've also got endorphins. There's lots of chemicals that are released in our brain. And these chemicals release or can be released by thought alone. Okay, so thought can directly affect the body. And so if we're well and healthy or we're sick, then it comes back to thought. It can come back to thoughts. Like, what are the dominant thoughts that we're using? What are the dominant thoughts that we're producing that then shows up in some way in our life? Okay, so that was the second one. Thoughts directly affect the body. Number 3 was we have the ability to reinvent ourselves. That we can reinvent. See, it's possible for us to think different thoughts and thereby have different outcomes. And if we consistently think different thoughts, we consistently produce different emotions, we consistently change, suddenly the new person emerges. But it's got to be a consistent process. Just like that person who goes through that trauma, relives the trauma, and it can stay with them for years and years and years and years. They've rerun that pattern. Somebody can actually think in a higher way. Somebody can move into a place of excitement or joy or happiness and start spiraling in a completely different direction. Okay, so we can reinvent ourselves. We can become like a new person. That was the third belief. And the fourth belief was that we can pay attention to the extent that we can lose track of relative time and space. And once we lose track of those things, there is a change that happens in the body. That's why at some of his seminars that he does, he'll have people come in with diseases and leave without them. Now, often it doesn't happen in one session. Often it doesn't happen in one sitting. Often it doesn't happen when somebody comes up in front of the class and does it for the first time. Okay, we're talking about a process that he teaches in his seminars, which actually takes 2 hours a day. So he asks people for a 2-hour commitment. And he says, you've got to do the work. You can't expect this change to happen if you don't do the work. And so what he teaches people to do is through meditation and through other exercises, he teaches people to reinvent themselves, to become a new person. Then when they pay attention to that level, then the changes can happen. And so if you go and look up YouTube and look up Dr. Joe Dispenza, there'll be testimonies of people who have diseases, or had diseases, who had injuries, who had ailments. They will come on there and they'll tell you about their experience. And it's fascinating. Okay, but he tells people to do the work. He says, don't just come once to a seminar, don't just come once to a night like tonight and think that's it, I'm healed. It's not how it works.
Can you write the name?
Generally. What's that?
The name, Joe
Dispenza.
Can you just write it down? I'm not sure how it's
Dispenza.